Hello and welcome to Mabinda TV. This is home of Providence Conservatism, in which we advocate for a fine balance between individual creative genius excellence as afforded by capitalism and society excellence as afforded by equality of opportunity. So in essence, we are calling for capitalism with a human first, that is capitalism with a human first. So now this is a three-part segment where I look at Remaking America, ideas, and then a Bible study. So basically, in the Making America, how did Harvard, MIT, and Penn presidents perform in the is anti-Semitism rising in American elite colleges? That is anti-Semitism rising in American elite colleges? You had the president of Harvard, Dr. Claudine Gay, then you had the president of Penn in UPenn, that is McGill, all of them saying that it depends on the context. So you have the Harvard president saying that basically Harvard abhors hate in all its forms, but then again, Harvard has to protect free speech, so of course, saying that it depends on context, that is, students calling for genocide of Jews. Depends on the context. Of course, you had Republican senators questioning these three Ivy League colleges, questioning them on the rise of anti-Semitism at Harvard, MIT, and UPenn. So basically, our college campuses is there rising anti-Semitism. Of course, some will say you had this all came along after a group of Harvard students sent a letter blaming Israel for the Hamas attacks on October 7. That is, you had a group of Harvard students signing a letter blaming Israel for the Hamas attacks. Of course, you had a lot of conservatives going up in anger. You had I think Harvard had to hire a PR firm in order to manage that crisis. Of course, you have even Dr. Claudine Gay, the Harvard president, ruled out expelling the students who had co-signed the letter. You had a conservative advocacy group coming with that track to Harvard and labeling the most anti-Semitic students at Harvard. So you can see how very much that is this thing really, this group of students who called out Israel for the Hamas attacks. You can see how it led to a follow. But I think maybe America is that place where there is just so much conflict. So how does America then regain? How do we stop hate in college campuses? Not just hate in college campuses, but hate in American public life, because you have African Americans, you have transgender, you have homophobic comments, you have a lot of hate within these groups. And I think, of course, Donald Trump, some say that this is all fueled by Donald Trump. The Republican Party has moved to the far right, and maybe they should also apologize, given that basically Donald Trump saw the rise, the election of Donald Trump saw the rise of white nationalism in America. And of course, there are fears that in America, whites fear they could be a minority. That is, in America, whites fear they could be a minority by the year 2040. And I think you have a lot of biracial kids are getting born. And so they say whites could be diluted, and maybe whites have provided the base for the Republican Party. So, of course, then you have fears that if this will happen, and then whites could become a minority. Of course, for some liberals, for some leftists, I think there's someone who penned an article sometime back in the Wall Street Journal saying these far-right voters could simply be replaced by the Great Replacement theory. So, of course, the Great Replacement theory is that maybe allow more immigration to come through the American southern border, and then, of course, come by the millions, so that these are dependable democratic votes. But, of course, come and then replace the white votes in America, so that you could have maybe who will tend to lean Democratic. But I think the Republican Party maybe has to be more diverse, and even it is projected because of the demographic changes in Texas that Texas will sometime in the next election cycle, maybe 2028, will lean Democratic and become a purple state, a battleground state, and then finally a blue state. So basically this will put the presidency away from the reach of the Republicans. But of course then maybe a lot of Republicans are, a lot of maybe whites are really concerned that America is turning out to be a brown country. So basically, they are worried they are losing their grip on America becoming a brown country. But I don't think Donald Trump had those rough edges before. I think when you looked at him in The Apprentice, he did not have those rough edges. So I don't know where those rough edges of Donald Trump came, where he was viewed as sympathetic to the white nationalist cause. So I think maybe Donald Trump does well when it comes to the economy, and maybe America should shift and be a post-racial society where it is now a class that is the designating factor and not race, because all these groups, when Donald Trump is elected, they will fear, because they could fear that Donald Trump is going to append maybe the racial mixture of America. And if whites become a minority, then it will be very hard for the Republicans to win again, because they draw a majority of their support from white people. But then again, this is the conundrum in American politics, that you have the Republicans having very good ideas on how to move America forward, but by bogged down by bad racial identity politics, then you have the Democrats having really very terrible ideas on how America should be run. But then, of course, now elevated by, because they have made their party racially diverse. So basically, even if the African Americans, for instance, are not getting anything in the Democratic Party, but they do vote for the party, because the party elected the first African American president was about just came near to electing the first woman president in America. So basically, they view the Democrats as more progressive, but then they have very terrible ideas. So that's the conundrum in American politics, that you have the Republicans very great ideas, individual dynamism, where the individual is the master of their own destiny. And then, of course, you have where the individual is the master of their own destiny. And then, of course, you have the Democrats, where they have terrible sanctuary cities, state control, expanding federal government on people's lives. But then, of course, substituting those failures for a more racially diverse party. So I think that's the conundrum in American politics, and that is why there seems to be a deadlock between the Democrats and the Republicans. Of course, the Republicans have shifted to the far right, and that just complicates the electoral map for America. So, do you think the presidents of Harvard, MIT, and Penn answered the questions on anti-Semitism well? So you let me know in the comment sections. And then in ideas, how did we move from the MD to the CEO? That is, in ideas, how did we move from the managing director to the CEO? So the managing director came from the factory floor. They had experience. They relied on product development, on increasing the R&D budget, so product improvements to make their sales pitch, and then, of course, only earned about 10 times the salary of the factory floor worker. But then came the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, who mostly was a finance forecasting guy, or had a degree from a university with an international university with a forbidding entry criteria, and of course then was relied on layoffs to keep the budget, to keep the company afloat. Relied on layoffs, and of course increase the marketing and advertising budget in order to attract to increase the market share. So you can see the difference between the managing director and the CEO. So the CEO relies on a team of accountants and lawyers in order to keep the taxes as low as possible. Remember, tax avoidance is not illegal. Tax avoidance, that is keeping your taxes as low. That is keeping your taxes as low as you can, is not illegal. What is illegal is tax evasion. So basically, the CEO relied on tax avoidance and hired a team of accountants, lawyers to keep the taxes as low as possible, instead of relying on increased sales through increased research and development towards improvement of product quality. And isn't it why we have so many substandard products selling? It's very hard for a small company to break into the mainstream these days. That is, it is very hard for a mainstream company, for a small company to break into mainstream these days, because to break into the mainstream these days, because it is because the big companies have really taken over the supermarket, the supply chain. I think it is just very hard to unseat basically a growing unestablished company. So you let me know on how you think we move from the CEO to the managing director, from the managing director MD to the CEO, and then finally in Bible study, how do you deal with a stored life? In Bible study, how do you deal with a stored life? Basically, what do you do when your life has stagnated? Nothing is working out. Things are not moving. You are basically stuck. And I think maybe from personal perspective is to know and that someday things will turn out just fine. Basically, even in the midst of the valley of death, the shadows of death, that basically you will have success at some point in the future. So basically this taking away your destiny, where someone has stolen your destiny, then you need to be prayer. They say that basically prayers against witchcraft, against people who steal your destinies work maybe when between 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. is when these witches meet in order to steal people's destiny. But I think I think what we should be happening is that maybe we should be praying during that hour, so that these animal spirits that come to steal your destiny, these demonic spirits that come to steal your destiny, don't get you, so that you can partake of your destinies. And I think so many people, the world would be a great place if the highest angels got to be in their destiny place. Imagine if we elected angels for president. If we elected angels for running our biggest companies, running our schools, then the world would be heaven in no amount of time. But I think their destinies are stolen. And I think if the bright star lights up too early, I think those are the people that have the most problems. People think maybe they have gone mad. No, but it is their destinies that was stolen. So I think the stealing of destinies is life. So many people don't know that life is really spiritual, but they say they simply think that things are not working out, but it is because the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And I don't think we should be giving room for the devil to be doing these things. So you let me know on how you think you can stop your life stagnating, your life stalling, so that you can have people that are destiny helpers to come and help you go to the next level, rise to a higher state of purity. I think if you have more pure leaders, then the world will know. The world is in chaos because the people that are supposed to be in charge are the ones who are in jail. And I think the devil knows his days are numbered. So that's why he wants to have as many people in his camp as possible. But they come to kill, steal, and destroy. So let me know on how you think you can deal with a stagnated life. So this has been Mabinda TV. This is home of Providence Conservatism, where I advocate for a fine balance between individual creative genius excellence as afforded by capitalism and society excellence as afforded by equality of opportunity. So in essence, I'm calling for capitalism with a human first. I'm simply calling for capitalism with a human first, which I think should be Providence, but of course then it will stand around to be capitalism. So bye for now till the next episode. Hello and welcome to Providence Conservatism. This is a fine balance between individual creative genius excellence as afforded by capitalism and society excellence as afforded by equality of opportunity. So in essence, you are calling for capitalism with a human first, that is capitalism with a human first. And now this is Africa Perspectives, and in Africa Perspectives, I'm looking at the end of poverty in Africa, that is the end of poverty in Africa. So how can poverty be eliminated in Africa? I think first of all, Africa has to fix its leadership. That is, Africa has to fix its leadership. And I say that in no uncertain terms. Too many times we elect hyena to look after sheep, and they end up eating us. So I don't think we have gotten the leaders that are to steer Africa in the right direction. I think all we have gotten are leaders that basically will sell Africa next to a song. And I think we need to change how we vote in our leaders. I think what we have in Africa right now is mob anarchy. We don't have democracy, and maybe according to Zambian economist Dr. Dambisa Mo, she says that basically voters should be taking a civic test, and only those who pass should get to vote, so that because voters don't know the weight of their decision. So I think we need to change the way we put leaders in place so that we can have capable leaders. We don't have capable leaders. All the leaders are mere semi-average leaders, and I think these semi-average leaders are taking Africa down the drain. 60 years after independence, 70 years after independence, we still don't have piped water in every African home. We still don't have electricity in every African home. Our youth don't have jobs. They routinely cross the Mediterranean Sea to Europe in order to get better chances, even working in farms with low pay in Europe. But at least it offers them some kind of hope. Some even take all the way to South America, find their way to Latin America in order to cross over to the United States. So you can see the way we train our leaders, the way our youth have lost hope. I think in an international station survey, about 81% of African youth want to leave their continent because there are simply no opportunities in Africa. And I think in 2019, about 20,000 Nigerians left the country to Canada because of the Canada's merit-based immigration, where basically the higher your qualification, the higher your academic qualifications, the higher your professional skills, and then the more immigration points you have. So there is a wide-scale migration from Africa because our leaders are not delivering economic dividends. And I think now we are 60 years into independence. I think some of the things should have been past tense, but I think development economists in the 1960s had projected that Asia had projected that Africa would develop first before Asia, but that did not happen. It is Asia that has developed first, because look at countries, the so-called Asian tigers such as South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand. They put in place measures so that they could develop. But then look at Africa. And I think Africa was thought to develop first because of the immense mineral resources that Africa has. Look at a country such as DR Congo. It is estimated to be worth about $30 trillion, the mineral potential in DR Congo. So, but that will only happen if we value add, that is, convert titanium to aeroplane parts, convert copper to electronics, convert gold and diamonds to jewelry, convert uranium to nuclear power, convert rivers to hydroelectric power, convert cocoa to chocolate, convert coffee to coffee drinking chains, convert wood to paper. That is the only way Africa will develop. But I don't think we value add. I think a study shows that cotton that is exported from Uganda to Italy creates 13 times more jobs in Italy than it does in Uganda. So we have to value add, and I don't think we need to start at high quality at all. We can start with the quality we have, then using the funds that we get, then we can improve the quality of the funds. Look at Africa. It has a population of about 1 billion people. That's a good enough market, and we should make it easier to be able to travel around Africa and trade with each other, so that when we trade with each other, and then you can be sure that we can have this 1 billion people, so that we can move to the next stage. Just imagine if Aliko Dangote is Africa's richest man. So imagine if he is worth $10 billion while trading only in Africa, how rich could he be with a 1 billion market? That would be immense. I think he could be the richest man. And of course, Aliko Dangote says that he needs 37 visas to travel around Africa. So that complicates his investment strategy. And I think that is something that complicates his investment strategy, and I think that is just that is why he has opened an office in New York where he wants to diversify his investment. So that's a loss to Africa, and I don't think we should be losing this badly needed investment. And of course, then it should not be an anomaly for an African to own a multinational company. I think we must make it possible so that Africans can start their own businesses. I think everyone outside of Africa thinks Africa is the next frontier, except Africans themselves. Africans don't view Africa as the next frontier. Look at people from India are coming all the way barefoot to Africa, and they're making tremendous amount of money, but Africans themselves don't see opportunities in their own country. So I would think Africa, we have to have a venture capital. I think we need about $100 billion to create about a $20 trillion economy. So I think we need to fund all sectors, and I think the venture capital market in Africa is not that developed. That's why I would think maybe we need to enhance the venture capital market in Africa so that you can have these people lending Africans money so that they can start their own businesses. I think too many Africans go to banks, but banks require collateral, so they readily lend to multinationals which have the necessary cash flow, and then of course the small business people they go to microfinance institutions. So it is the middle high growth businesses that do not have sources of finance. That's why I would say they need to be able to get financing so that they can then need to be able to get financing so that they can then be able to get the necessary funding. And I think if Africa had 10 million businesses, just imagine if Africa had 10 million businesses, each of them employing about 100 people, 200 people, that would be 2 billion jobs created, 2 jobs for every African. So I think we need a very robust venture capital market, so that we can lend to Africans so that they can finance their own businesses. And I think, of course, we always complain that the international trade practices are against Africa, but I think we need to start trading with ourselves. Look at Japan. It did not have the high-quality brands at first. It could not compete with Western brands, and what did it do? They started selling their brands within Japan first, and then after then they used the profits to reinvest back into their businesses. So that's how they were able. That's how the Japanese brands were able to increase their quality, increase their R&D budget, research and development budget, so that they could then begin exporting. And now Japanese brands are a hallmark of quality, surpassing even the Western brands. You have brands such as Toshiba, Toyota, Sony, Mitsubishi, Isuzu, all of these, and of course Panasonic, all of these brands are well-known international brands, but they were not always like that. And I think for Africa, we can start slow so that we can have these brands basically. We can have these brands basically just selling first of all in Africa and then exporting them when the quality has improved. And I think there needs to be a profound Afrocentrism in Africa. Let's buy made in Africa. Let's build Africa. Let's buy Africa. And let's build Africa. For instance, when someone has gotten some windfall money, why do they have to travel to Dubai when they could get the same desert experience in Namibia or in the Chalbi Desert in Kenya? So why go to Dubai? You could get a very good desert experience in Namibia, maybe in the Kalahari Desert. So I think Africans need to be able to maybe have a profound sense of Afrocentrism. So the unity we seek should not just be one of geographical span, but also a unity of maybe a unity of Afrocentrism, so that we can invest right here in Africa, and so that then we can have the end of Africa, the end of poverty in Africa. For how long? 75% of the poorest countries in the world are in sub-Saharan Africa. Imagine that. 75% of the poorest countries in the world are in sub-Saharan Africa. In the year 2018, Nigeria surpassed India as the country with the largest number of absolute poor people, at 85 million. So you can imagine Nigeria surpassing India as the country with the largest number of poor people, absolute poor people, that's 85 million. But in the same year, 2018, Nigeria was the fastest growing market for private jets. That's in the same year, in 2018, Nigeria was the fastest growing market for private jets, where the celebrity CEOs and celebrity CEOs, celebrity pastors, celebrity politicians use air travel instead of using roads which are dilapidated. So I think for now, Africa has to do more to end poverty. It starts with leadership. Let's change the way. We should not be looking at the surname of our leaders. We should instead be looking at the character and the ideology of our leaders. What's their health plan? What's their healthcare plan? What's their jobs plan? What's the education plan? What's the infrastructure plan? And once we move from personality to ideology, then we can have African leaders that can basically then grind and work for us so that they can create Africa that is prosperous. Africa has the potential to be a $200 trillion economy. Imagine if DR Congo alone is potentially a $30 trillion economy. That's according to the CIA fact book. And that is DR Congo alone, then of course Africa could be worth $200 trillion. So I think we need to be able to basically marshal all the resources, then fix our leadership, have a great education system that can train the best and brightest minds to solve the deep issues of the day, the deep challenges that Africa faces. And I think that's how Africa can eliminate poverty. It's not that hard. Asia did it in a record 25 years. Singapore's Lee Kuan Yew did it in a record 25 years, in a generation, and I think African leaders could do even that. So Africa can 3D print. Africa can and should be 3D printed. There have been conferences on how Africa can develop. There have been newsbites, opinion columns, dissertation theses. There have been all of them talking about how Africa can be developed. But then again, what I would ask, why is it that why is it so hard to implement these things? Maybe we need benevolent dictators as these Asian tigers had. Maybe we need benevolent dictators, but I think apart from that, then the dictators in Africa oppress their people both politically and economically. So how should a dictator, at least if a dictator in the Middle East or in Asia oppresses their people, it is politically bad, they give them economic freedoms. But in Africa, they don't give us economic freedoms. They oppress us politically, and also the people are poor. So basically, how can these leaders stay in power? Maybe that's why there are so many coups and counter coups in Africa, because the people are fed up. And you see, when a military coup occurs, you find the people going to the streets and cheering. So I would hope that really Africa gets to develop, and then of course it becomes that shining city on the hill. Of course, a lot of people have said the 21st century will be the Asian century. A lot of people have said the 21st century will be the Asian century, but I will posit that it can also be the African century. That is, the 21st century can also be the African century. So I will hope that really Africans do more to be able to elect leaders that will work for us, leaders that will not be stashing money in foreign bank accounts, leaders that will not be going for medical treatment abroad, whereas the medical infrastructure in Africa is dilapidating. Some people in African hospitals even use a torch because there's no electricity in their hospitals or frequent power blackouts, so they use their mobile phones to carry out surgery. Quite a point. Africa really needs to be at that point in life. I think Africa has to be able to have quality leaders that basically, I think Africa has to have quality leaders that basically fight for us. So how do you think end of poverty in Africa can be achieved? So this has been Mabinda TV. This is home of Providence Conservatism, in which advocate for a fine balance as afforded by capitalism and society excellence as afforded by equality of opportunity. So in essence, we are calling for capitalism with our human first, that is capitalism with our human first. Hello and welcome to my Binda TV. This is home of Providence Conservatism, where we advocate for a fine balance between individual creative genius excellence as afforded by capitalism and society excellence as afforded by equality of opportunity. So in essence, we are calling for capitalism with a human face, that is capitalism with a human face. So now this is Remaking America, and in Remaking America, I'm asking, is America exceptionalism dead? That is America exceptionalism dead? For instance, America right now, Google was surpassed by TikTok as the world's most visited domain. So you can imagine that Google was surpassed by TikTok as as the world's most visited domain. Of course, remember TikTok is Chinese made by this company ByteDance. Of course, it has been under a lot of investigations. I don't know whether that has to do with American propaganda, Western propaganda, or is it merely that it is a tool for that is fishing out information from Western countries to China. So Google surpassed as the world's most visited domain by TikTok. Of course, TikTok is made by ByteDance. And then, of course, not only that, now American democracy is wobbling. So basically, you have commentators proclaiming that, I think a Swedish advocacy group labeled America as a backsliding democracy. I think in a democracy summit, you had international commentators proclaiming that America was exhibit of a failed democracy. So you have that international commentators proclaiming that America was exhibit of a failed democracy. And so you can see American democracy is wobbling, and you have concerns about Donald Trump, whether he will be an autocrat in his second term. A lot of fears are emerging, and you had a Fox News town hall with Fox News host Sean Hannity. Hannity basically asking him whether he will be a dictator in his second term, and of course you had Donald Trump replying that he will be a dictator only on day one. So you have these fear impulses that Donald Trump has, authoritarian impulses, that basically he is going to be an authoritarian. And you heard Donald Trump says he admires the strong hand of Putin in Russia. So basically maybe Donald Trump is going to go after his enemies in ways that we have not even imagined. Of course, he says, that is Donald Trump, that the DOJ has been weaponized, that is the Department of Justice. Donald Trump says the DOJ has been weaponized, the Department of Justice has been weaponized. So I think that is a sliding down of American democracy. But I think we need to see more robust debate. We need a robust America left versus right. And I would hope to see where we shift away from politics to governance. And I think what we need in America is not politics. What we need is governance. What the problem of America, and maybe even much of the world, is that this governance has been substituted for politics. And politicians really, they are only interested in power. That's the difference between governance and politics. Politicians are interested in power, and I think that's the way. And I think that's the way to really tell whether someone is a politician or a leader. We need leaders that are interested in governance, and I think if we had leaders that are interested in governance, then America will resume its place as the leader of the world. I think America likes to proclaim itself that it is the leader of the free world, but how can it be when you have people, you have congressmen elbowing each other on Capitol Hill, you have a group of supporters attacking members of Congress on January 6, 2021, when they were not, when Donald Trump was not satisfied with the election results he basically supporters trooped over to Washington, basically trying to say trooped over to Washington, and of course took over, wanted the Vice President then, Mike Pence, to overturn the electoral results that had given the win to Joe Biden. So you can see that, of course, some say it was a conspiracy theory organized by the FBI. So I think American democracy is wobbling very much, and I think that creates a bureaucracy. And when you have bureaucracy, things don't get done. And that's how America gets surpassed by China. When you have bureaucracy, things don't get done at all. And I think that's how you have the American economy surpassed by, you have America very soon could be surpassed by China. I think commentators are proclaiming if America is not going to mend its ways, then in 5 or 6 years, then the Chinese economy will be larger than the United States, and there will be accompanying consequences to that. So I think for now, America has to do more so that it becomes that shining city on the hill that the world looks up to. But right now, I think it has lost its moral leadership. I think America is engaged in one war or another. I think every American president is engaged in one war or another. Maybe it's a secret deal they sign. We don't know. Maybe. Why is America engaged always in wars? What if this money could be used to maybe improve the livelihoods of the Americans, and in that way they could be, they really could be, then have a very much improved standard of living. So that's it for Remaking America. And then in ideas, what is the future of newspapers? In ideas, I'm asking what is the future of newspapers, because now with the digital technology, you have a lot of newspapers will go extinct. A lot of newspapers will go extinct. There really will be a world where we will be consuming our information online. And I think maybe the surprising thing is that it is not the general newspapers such as the New York Times. It is not the general newspapers that are reading in subscriptions. It is the financial niche newspapers such as the Financial Times and the Wall Street Journal that are racking up subscriptions. Of course, New York Times, but for New York Times to do that, it had also to diversify to other things such as the recipes and of course the spelling bee and of course the crossword puzzles. I think that is what has led to New York Times having subscriptions, because I think it diversified to such things as recipes. And I think then newspapers will have to find a niche. They will have to give us insights, not just news, because news is now broken by social media sites, and I think news is now broken by social media sites, and I think for newspapers then they will have to do more so that they can give us value for money. And I think maybe they could adopt a hybrid model where we could adopt a hybrid model where there could be maybe access free content, maybe news that has already been on TV, on social media, and then of course maybe get columnists to give us insights, to give us make sense of the news, give us the opinions. Maybe that's how we could make sense of that news, and that's how the newspapers could find value in money. And I think if that happens, then a lot of newspapers will be racking up subscriptions, and maybe they could borrow from New York Times, which has diversified to spelling bees, has diversified to crossword puzzle, and so this tends to help students in their homework. And I think niche newspapers in finance journalism, I think, will survive, because you tend to see, for instance, advertisements in finance, maybe in stock prices, they tend to attract the highest bid, because maybe people are likely to sign up after that. But then, of course, and I think maybe that is why it is likely that this niche audience, such as the one of Wall Street Journal, tends to rack up subscriptions very, very fast. So let me know on what you think is the future of newspapers. Then I will move over now to Heart and Soul. And in Heart and Soul, this is about Bible study. So, of course, I will be reading from Exodus chapter 20, verse 1 to maybe 5, or verse 1 to 5. Then God says, I am the Lord your God. I led you out of the land of Egypt where you were slaves. These are the commands I give you. You must not worship any other gods except me. You must not make any idols. Don't make any statues or pictures or anything up in the sky or anything on the earth or of anything down in the water. Don't worship or serve idols of any kind, because I, the Lord, am your God. I hate my people worshipping other gods. People who sin me against me become my enemies, and I will punish them. So basically, basically, I will punish their children, their grandchildren, and even their great-grandchildren. So basically, why are we worshipping idols at this moment? This is the topic I really wanted, not even the Ten Commandments. How we replace the worship of God with the worship of idols. Look at, even though many people say, many Americans say they are artists, but you can see they have substituted their gods to be the billionaires, to be the celebrities, to be the politicians. These are their gods. These are the new gods. I think once you substitute someone that, once someone occupies that place in your heart, I think for politicians especially, I think we should only worship them, we should only look up to them for their outcomes, not really who they are. They could screw up the country. For musicians, you have to see the kind of ritual that goes on in their performances, where they are worshipping their earthly gods, and I think most of them have sold their souls to the devil, even the politicians. That's why things are not working in America and much else in the world. Because those who are at the top, they have formed a layer in which the pure spirits cannot pass, such that they remain pure, they remain holy, but they don't have influence. I think really the true person who has written the maybe the true news article gets just about 10 views or even 5 views, and that is the true story. But the one who has a lot of lies, abuses people, that is the one that people will care. So I think it's very unfortunate. I think it's very unfortunate that the world is such as this, but that's the world we live in. So, but I think as the fallen angels, one day the Lord shall have maybe anger and just confine them to the pits of hell, where they will be, they will have eternal damnation, because I think they are formed a layer. Look at, if someone is tired of watching the news, why are you waking up to your day with stories about wars everywhere? Why do you wake up in the day and then the stories you are served in the news are in the cable news are about wars everywhere? Then you are tired, so basically you go to work tired. Then if you are tired, you switch off that news, you go to the business channel, then you are enticed with the soap opera stories maybe of AI, not telling you the people who research, but telling you the result to the competition of how that competition went, or you are given stories of the billionaire lifestyle. Then you're tired about that, then you go to celebrity channels, you want soft news, you want something to keep you happy. Then what do you get? When you go to celebrity channels, what do you get? 7-figure lifestyles, while so that you can take out loans to buy huge mansions or cribs. Just telling you that the whole world, I think, will exist in some form of devil wants to make this their colony, and whoever does not want to toe the line, maybe the devil will make conditions untenable for them. But I think we have an artificial layer, a layer that is insidious, a layer that wants to suck all the energy out of us. But I think it is something that we need to fight. The angels of the Lord need to fight this. And I think we don't need to worship these idols. They are absolutely the most corrupt people of the world. They have taken us to where we are. I think every person in the world deserves to live a certain decent standard of living, but you have people taking all their money, and I don't think it is good for people to be doing this. I just think the world is rotten to the core, and I hope someday the angels of the Lord will come back, and then the world will be the beautiful heaven that it was meant to be. So that's it for now. This has been a three-part segment where I've looked at Is America Exceptionalism Dead? And then in Ideas, what is the future of newspapers? And then in Bible study, I've looked at how we replaced worshipping of God with worshipping of idols. So you let me know in the comment section. So now this has been Mabinda TV. This is home of Providence Conservatism, where we advocate for a fine balance between individual creative genius excellence as afforded by capitalism and society excellence as afforded by equality of opportunity. So in essence, you are calling for capitalism with a human first, that is capitalism with a human first. So that is it for now. So you do subscribe to later editions remember to hit the subscription and the subscribe, like and subscribe button. Hello and welcome to Mabinda TV. This is home of Providence Conservatism, where we advocate for a fine balance between individual creative genius excellence as afforded by capitalism and society excellence as afforded by equality of opportunity. So in essence, we are calling for capitalism with a human first, that is capitalism with a human first. So now, this is Africa Perspectives, and in Africa Perspectives, I'm asking if DR Congo is worth $30 trillion, why is the country so poor? That is, if DR Congo is worth $30 trillion, why is the country so poor? So basically, DR Congo, basically a country in Central Africa, was Belgian property. Of course, you had in 1884 the European leaders, 13 European powers plus the United States sat down and demarcated Africa among themselves. So they designated that DR Congo will be the property of Belgium, not even the property of Belgium, but of King Belgian King Leopold. So basically, Belgian King Leopold was thought to be the one owning DR Congo as his personal property. And I think about 10 million Congolese were killed when they failed to meet their rubber quota. So of course, they were killed as if it was some kind of sport. And this genocide has not been highlighted for a very, very long time. This genocide of a Congolese native when they failed to meet their rubber quota. So DR Congo is rich in mineral resources. I think archaeologists said it was really an accident that DR Congo found itself with so much mineral potential. I think it has a mineral potential of $30 trillion according to the CIA fact book. So imagine that DR Congo has a mineral potential of $30 trillion. So basically, but why is the country so poor? So DR Congo has minerals such as titanium, coltan, cobalt, oil, copper, uranium, and of course water, and of course not forgetting the forest and the good agricultural climate. So basically, DR Congo has everything it needs, but why is the country so poor? I will proceed that basically the country has to remove, that is DR Congo, basically does not add value to its minerals as much of Africa does, not just DR Congo, but much of Africa. We do tend to export very raw materials. We do tend to export raw materials, and I think that is how Africa does not add value. For instance, copper exported from Uganda to France creates 13 times more, to Italy creates 13 times more jobs in Italy than it does in Uganda. So you can imagine. So we need to add value to our mineral resources. So that will only happen. The $30 trillion will only be gotten to DR Congo when it converts titanium to aeroplane parts, when it converts uranium to nuclear power, when it converts copper to electronics, when it converts gold and diamonds to jewelry, when it converts cocoa to chocolate, when it converts coffee to coffee drinking chains, when it converts river Congo to hydroelectric power to power the whole of Africa. If it converts coltan and cobalt to mobile phones and computers and of course electric cars, that's the only way for these mineral resources to be of immense help to DR Congo. And I would think that basically DR Congo has then to add value to its minerals. But how does it do that? I think it has to have focused leaders that are not beholden to the West. Of course, according to an interview in one of the international stations, you heard that the former president of DR Congo, Joseph Kabila, is worth $18 billion. That is Joseph Kabila. That is worth that is $18 billion, but that's because that's according to Panama Papers. Of course, that was said by the former opposition leader, Martin Fayulu. So you have this Congolese former president, DR Congo former president Joseph Kabila being worth $18 billion. That's according to the former opposition leader, Martin Fayulu, who in turn had quoted the Panama Papers. So I think for DR Congo then, the trick is to have focused leaders that are not beholden to the Western powers. I think since independence, you had the independence leader, Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba was assassinated for merely calling that the mineral resources of DR Congo should benefit the people of DR Congo, and that country has known no peace ever since independence. I think at independence, DR Congo had only about 2 doctors and 9 engineers to cover the whole country. So I think Belgium was not prepared to hand over independence to DR Congo, and I think that country still faces. That country, I think, still faces that country still faces that kind of not preparation for independence. So I think the country could be the model. It could be the richest country in the world, because the United States economy is about the United States economy, I think, is about $20 trillion. Then the Chinese economy is about $17 trillion. But DR Congo, the mineral potential of DR Congo is worth $30 trillion. So you can imagine that is a very, very huge amount of wealth that is just going down the drain, because the country does not have focused leaders. You have neighboring countries such as Uganda's Yoweri Museveni and, of course, Rwanda's Paul Kagame. They have been accused that they are pilfering away the wealth of DR Congo. So I will say that basically what Africa needs to do is basically to just focus on how does Africa then have focused leaders. I don't think we got independence at all. That's the truth. The truth of the matter is that Africa never got independence. What we had are puppets. What we have are puppets, leaders who are going to sing to the tune of the Western nations. And basically, these are the Western nations. Look at the whole world, how they are clamoring for semiconductors. China and the United States, they are basically in a race for semiconductors. But these semiconductors, those mineral resources, are gotten from DR Congo. And yet there is not a single factory in DR Congo. It is processed in Taiwan, in China, with China being the leader in semiconductor production. So why is it that they have no mineral resources for this new information age? Yet it is DR Congo that has these mineral resources, and yet DR Congo does not have a single mobile phone factory, does not have a single computer factory. And I think what we need to do then is to have Africa, I think, is to have DR Congo that is perhaps at a country that has to elect its own leaders. There was no purpose of independence at all. I don't think we ever got independence. There was no purpose of independence at all. The Congolese leaders are all beholden to Western interests. I don't think there is any. Look at Mobutu Sese Seko. He sold off DR Congo. He killed, I think he was the one who was the leader of the intelligence at that time, and he helped kill Patrice Lumumba and then became president himself. Of course, he was installed by America, so you can't see how very much. And I think even the killing of Patrice Lumumba, you had CIA participating. So even as these rich countries enjoy their wealth, that wealth has been begotten because of the minerals that are plucked off from DR Congo. So I would think that for now, I think that for now, the mineral resources of DR Congo have to help the Congolese people, and I think that's how we can maintain. That's how DR Congo can be the richest country in the world, and I think that will be the paradise that we are waiting for. We are all waiting for the paradise of DR Congo, but that country has to do more so that it can become it can become the richest country in the world, and I think surpass the United States economy of $20 trillion and surpass the Chinese economy of about, that is over the Chinese economy of maybe $17 trillion, and I think the European Union economy of about $15 trillion. So I think for now, DR Congo has to do more. Let's do more technical. Let's train more petroleum engineers. Let's train more mining engineers, and then not that, let's train more manufacturing engineers, so that chemical engineers, so that they can convert these mineral resources. Then African Union, what's the purpose of the African Union? Why don't they come together and basically just sponsor this? If every country could just chip in 1%, if African countries could chip 1% or 5% of their budgets towards helping DR Congo mine its minerals, they could get cheaper electricity. River Congo could power the whole of Africa, and this is why I say that Africa does not have focused leaders. We have leaders that are basically the worst, and I think that's how we can maintain Africa that is truly at the absolute leading edge of innovation. So we don't have money, but we also don't have the technical capacity. So I think that needs to change. So you let me know on how you think DR Congo can basically marshal its resources so that it becomes the richest country, not just in Africa, but the richest country in the world. It has the potential to be, it has the mineral resources, so let me know in the comment section. So now this has been Mabinda TV. This is home of Providence Conservatism, where we advocate for a fine balance between individual creative genius excellence and between individual creative excellence as fostered by capitalism and society excellence as fostered by equality of opportunity. So in essence, we call for capitalism with a human first, that is capitalism with a human first. Hello and welcome to Mabinda TV. This is home of compassionate conservatism, where we advocate for a fine balance between individual creative genius excellence as afforded by capitalism and society excellence as afforded by equality of opportunity. So in essence, we are calling for capitalism with a human first, that is capitalism with a human first. So this is a three-part segment. So I'll be looking at America, remaking America, ideas, then a Bible study or heart and soul. So in remaking America, is America exceptionalism dead? Is America exceptionalism dead? That is the idea that America is always on top. Is it dead? Of course, you have, I think now TikTok is the most downloaded app, surpassing Google as the worst most visited domain. So is America exceptionalism dead? And I think China is ranking up on the number of billionaires. It is soon going to be overtaking the United States in the number of billionaires. Not that the billionaires really determine anything, the state of a country. And for one, I don't think billionaires determine the state of a country. But for one, this was a domain of America, but now China is going to overtake America in so many respects. Look at American democracy. It is wobbling. Bureaucracy is wobbling. Bureaucracy. Look at the state of bureaucracy in America. There is more bureaucracy in America, and I think the American democracy, maybe dictators like Putin or Chinese communist leaders, Xi Jinping, look at China, look at the United States democracy and say, is this a kind of democracy you people want for us? Then they say, to hell with that system. So I think for American democracy, then it is wobbling, and I think look at China and India. China and India were at the same level of development in the 1990s, but then China pressed ahead because of communism, because decisions were fast-tracked, but then India chose democracy. It is in fact, the world's largest democracy, but decisions were fast-tracked, but then decisions were delayed, bureaucracy set in, and then India just lost a couple of growth points, and I think in that case, then America has to do more. It has to streamline its democracy. America has to be that country that really streamlines its democracy and becomes a democracy once again works for their people. Look at the disappearing middle class in America. Very soon, if America is not careful, it will soon be like third world countries in which there are only two classes. Either you are a billionaire or a pauper, nothing in between. And I think if America becomes like that, then it will become like third world countries or in Middle East or Latin America or in Africa, where now you will have a underclass, a sea of poverty and a billionaire class, especially with the coming of the robotics age. I think so many jobs will be eliminated, and I think this has to do with America losing its exceptionalism. And I think innovation, look at innovation, it is now Germany that is the leader of innovation, while I think it is Germany that is the leader of innovation. And I think the United States, even with all these big research companies such as Google, Microsoft, Amazon, I don't think America matches Germany in terms of innovation. Of course, as raised by the Zambian American economist, Dr. Dambisa Moore. So I think America has lost its edge. It needs to go back to the drawing board on how it can return to the winning ways, and in that sense then it can regain its number one spot in the world. Otherwise the world will now be multipolar, where there will be so many powers. Maybe you'll have the United States in one corner, China, Russia, European Union on the other corner, and maybe emerging Africa on the other corner. So that's it in the making America. And then in ideas, I'm asking, can a company have the resources of a multinational but yet have the speed and agility of a startup? That is, can a company have the resources of a multinational but yet have the speed and agility of a startup? So I look at Nokia and Motorola. They were the market leaders in feature phones, but they did not transition to be the market leaders in smartphones. That was taken up by the likes of Samsung and Huawei. Of course, then you have IBM being the market leader in hardware computers, but not being fast enough to be the market leader in personal computing software. That was taken up by Microsoft, and then Microsoft itself being the market leader in personal computing software, but not transitioning to be the market leader in internet search, and then Google being the market leader in internet search and not transitioning to be the market leader in social media, killing its social media app, that is Google Plus, and then now social media companies will be the market leaders in social media such as Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok. They will be the market leaders in social media, but will they transition to be the market leaders in 3D augmented reality? So you can see, some say the golden age of social media is already with us. People just volunteering free information to these content farms they say this is the golden age of social media is now behind us, and people will need to be paid in order to do that. So that has been ideas for now. I have been looking at whether a company can have the resources of a multinational but yet have the speed and agility of a startup. Then in Bible study, why do the less qualified succeed? In Heart and Soul, why do the less qualified succeed? For instance, I will ask, where did the two gods that used to practice with Rihanna go to? Where did those two gods go to? Of course, we only hear about Rihanna. Where did they go to? And maybe they were the ones who were urging Rihanna to be able to, and they were the ones who were urging Rihanna to be able to wake up and go and perform. You find maybe someone goes with all the stories of the famous people are the same. Why is it that the stories of the famous people are all the same? That is, my friend asked me to go and line up. My friend asked me to go and line up for this audition, and then I ended up being taken. So why is it that the stories of all the famous people are the same. Why are the children of Jacob the second born? This is what I call the second born, people who are shown things. Why did they end up succeeding? Look at the story of Bill Gates. He was not the one who invented the operating system. It was invented by Dr. George, but then Bill Gates bought it and really just converted it into another software. Look at the story of Mark Zuckerberg. He was not the first. Look at the story of Elon Musk. He was not the first to start Tesla. Look at the story of all these people, and I think maybe that is the question. Someone tells you, let's go and apply to Harvard. Then you end up being taken. The originator of the idea ends up being rejected. So I think maybe that's the question we need to be asking. Why do the less qualified succeed? What I would call the children of Jacob, why do they succeed? Is it about stealing of destinies? Some will call it witchcraft. Some will say stealing of destinies, that the devil is afraid. The devil is afraid of the pure amongst us. The purest amongst us are put down. The purest amongst us are put down so that you can't have these people. You can't have the poorest amongst us are put down so you can't have these people that basically the poorest amongst us are put down so that you can't have these people that basically don't have that much of a talent being given the leeway, being given the red carpet, and then of course they know they cheated their way to fame, they cheated their way to success, and then they have to offer all these sacrifices so that they can't remain at the top. And of course some people say, people like Beyonce and Jay-Z, that they were not the first to be that is, the Beyonce and Jay-Z were not the first to be the market they are not the most talented, but why is it that they sit at the top? They sacrifice people, and I don't think that is good at all. So this and maybe when the purest among us has lead this world, then basically the higher angels will ensure that this world becomes heaven. This world has to be heaven, and I think Satan's soul is poor. I think it is poor. If you have been to Kenya, then Satan's soul is a place like Kibera. That's what I think. I think Satan's soul is a place like Kibera, and I think this is why we think. This is why I think we need to be able to figure it out. Why is it that the poorest amongst us, the less qualified amongst us succeed? So this has been Mabinda TV for now. This is home of Providence Conservatism, where we have a fine balance between individual creative genius excellence as supported by capitalism and society excellence as afforded by equality of opportunity. So in essence, we call for capitalism with a human face. That is capitalism with a human face. So what? Hello and welcome to Mabinda TV. This is home of compassionate conservatism, where we advocate for a fine balance as it's spot between individual creative genius excellence as afforded by capitalism and society excellence as afforded by equality of opportunity. So in essence, we are calling for capitalism with a human face. That is capitalism with a human face. So now this is Mabinda TV, and in Africa Perspectives, I'm asking, why does Africa have semi-average leaders? That is, why does Africa have semi-average leaders? Why do the leaders in Africa not deliver on their core mandate? And I think we elect the worst. That is what Professor Pierre Lumumba, prominent Pan-Africanist, says. And I think when we are electing the Cato Deep chairman, we elect the best. When we are electing the school committee, the school building committee, we elect the best. When we are electing the wedding committee chairperson, we elect the best. But I think why is it that when it comes to national leadership, then we elect the worst. We elect the people that basically the people that go on and finish us, steal resources from us, people that are tribalist to the core, people that cause civil war, people that are indebted to the West. And I think maybe the colonialists were not frank in giving us independence. Yes, they gave us independence, but they never really went away. So now you have these semi-average leaders. And I think you have these semi-average leaders so that you have who ensure they develop Africa just enough so that resources will freely flow to the West. And I think now we have two enemies. We have the Western colonizers who want our resources, and then we have leaders that look like us, leaders that talk like us, leaders that have the same name as ours, who have been indebted to the global operation systems where Africa sits at the tail end. So we have these leaders that are bought onto this oppressive system being our leaders. And I don't, these days I don't even celebrate when a new leader is elected in Africa, be it opposition or the ruling party, because I know it is the same old policies. I know it is the same old kind of leadership that is going to prevail. That is, they will basically endanger their people, they will oppress their people, and there will be no development. Every now, why is it there a spirit that goes on during the times of elections when you find people are on hysteria, but then immediately that person is elected, things go back to how they were. Look at the Kenyan situation where the Kenyan president was elected by the people. The Kenyan president, William Ruto, was elected by the people, and now the same people that elected him are complaining of increased prices of goods and services where they want to raise more taxation. So you can imagine these semi-average leaders in Africa, this is a colonial layer. These are not the leaders to deliver us, and I think we need a new revolution, be it maybe even spiritual, so that we can get of this, we can get rid of this layer, we can get rid of these leaders so that we can put leaders that are for Africa. And I think when we do this, then Africa will be in a good state to develop. Look at the countries in Africa. We were supposed to develop before Asia, but that did not happen. It is the Asian countries that developed first because they had focused leaders. They had focused leaders. They had leaders that were willing to put their people first. Look at a leader like Singapore's Lee Kuan Yew. He was able to develop Singapore from a third world country to a first world country in a record 25 years, within a generation. And of course, he was an authoritarian, yes, but then he gave his people economic freedom. He emphasized education, and of course, then Singapore became a financial center of the world. Singapore became one of the leading global cities of the world. Of course, some say maybe he was too strict, and maybe that is Singapore lost a part of its culture, but that's a discussion for another day. But I think in terms of pure development metrics, Lee Kuan Yew is the textbook of this. Of course, then you have leaders in South Korea, you have leaders in Taiwan, you have leaders in South Korea, you have leaders in Malaysia, in Thailand. They developed their countries to first world countries. Of course, whether their culture changes is a story for another day, but I think they did have the development metrics. They eliminated poverty in a generation, and I think maybe Africa has to learn for this. We need maybe even benevolent dictators who will do our democracy, because I think, frankly, I don't think democracy is working for Africa. It is stealing so many things, and I think, yes, these political freedoms, I think we have not evolved to have a two-party system, or maybe be a place of ideology where the better ideas. Which African leader gets elected on the basis of a jobs plan? Which African leader gets elected on the basis of an infrastructure plan? Which African leader gets elected on the basis of a healthcare plan? None whatsoever. So this is why I think we need leaders, we need maybe benevolent dictators, leaders that are going to say, yes, they do this. For instance, why wouldn't African leaders employ 1 million civil servants? Why does it take that? Why don't they have village centers? I think if they employed, for instance, 1 million civil servants. Money will circulate around Africa. There will be money because I can't tell you, the rich in Africa don't help Africa at all. The rich in Africa don't help Africa at all. The rich in Africa really, they buy their sofa sets from countries abroad. They go to shop in Dubai when they could have gone to holiday in Namibia with the same desert experience, or maybe Chalpi Desert in Kenya with the same desert experience as Dubai. But they choose to go to Dubai. They send their kids to Western schools or Asian schools these days. Lately, they go to hospitals abroad, and so they are not able to contribute. So I would say, if African leaders took this step and employed 1 million people, then we will have 1 million civil servants, and that would help the Kenyan economy. That would improve the African economy, and Africa will be on good state. So that's how to develop Africa. I think if Africa developed in that way, then Africa would really be in a good state. And I think these leaders, the voters, when they're going to the polling booths, they don't consider their fate. Why do we elect the worst leaders? They don't consider that these people are our enemies. And I think maybe we don't even politics. Maybe we can't even elect business leaders to be the ones who are conducting the affairs of Africa, because our leaders have failed us. They kick the can down the road. I don't think there is any African leader. Even the likes of Julius Malema, they have bought, you can't be sure, secretly, they have bought onto the global operation system, where they are going to be the leaders that are going to lead Africa to go to lead Africa to peril. And I think as its leaders, I think I posit that if you are an African leader, that I think they sacrifice about 200 and 250,000 people. So I tend to think these leaders are just bought. They have bought into evil system. They will never deliver their children to prosperity. So I would tend to think that we have semi-average leaders. We are still in colonial chains. We are still in chains. So this is something that I think we need to work on. We need to work on our democracy. I think Africa, look at a country such as DR Congo. The mineral potential of DR Congo is worth about $30 trillion. That makes it potentially the richest country in the world. But why doesn't it become the richest country in the world? Because the leaders have bought. They sell minerals at a song, at next to nothing. DR Congo, look at copper, look at coltan, the minerals used to make the information revolution. Look at AI, artificial intelligence. These minerals are being, these batteries are being mined from DR Congo, but DR Congo does not have a single mobile phone company, does not have a single research on artificial intelligence, and so you can be sure that it is all oppression. And I think that is why Africa, if DR Congo is worth $30 trillion, then I think Africa is worth about $200 trillion. But how can that growth be achieved? How can that development be achieved? And I think going forward, I think maybe politics is not doing as any good, and maybe we should maybe think of business leaders, leaders such as maybe Steve Masia of Zimbabwe, maybe Dr. James Mwangi of Kenya, maybe Dr. Tony Elumelu of Nigeria. We need such leaders so that they can help our people grow to levels never seen before, so that our leaders can indeed be the shining star, can bring the best out of Africa. So let me know on why you think Africa has semi-average leaders. So now this has been Mabinda TV. This is home of compassionate conservatism, where I advocate for a fine balance, a sweet spot between individual creative genius excellence as afforded by capitalism and society excellence as afforded by equality of opportunity. So in essence, we are calling for capitalism with a human face, that is capitalism with a human face.